Welcome back to the Earth podcast. Today we're joined by someone who's helping reshape how excavators manage their dig notifications and protect their underground infrastructure. Mark Critchman is the co founder of 811spotter alongside Jeff Harrison. Together, they built a platform that purposely designed to give excavators better technology to manage their dig notifications with speed, clarity, and control. 811 Spotter wasn't born out of theory. It was built from the ground up to serve real world problems in the field. Mark and Jeff saw firsthand how legacy systems are slowing down crews and increasing risk, and they set out to build a solution that empowers excavators to stay ahead of their tickets, reduce damages, and streamline communications. Mark, welcome to the podcast. It's good to have you on.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Really great to be here.
So, Mark, let's start with the big question. 811 Spotter officially became part of the Earth family this year. What did that moment feel like for you, both personally and professionally?
It's a great question. And I think that anybody who starts something from scratch, whether that's, you know, training a puppy, raising a child, starting a business, when you see something from the very beginnings, the ideas that something could be there, all the way through a pretty validating moment by um, the acquisition it's pretty incredible, both personally and professionally.
Great. Well, let's rewind just a little bit and tell me, how did 811 Spotter actually get created? Why?
Yeah, so Jeff and I had a different business that focused on business intelligence and data for commercial contractors. We've been in the commercial contracting business for now 26 years. And one of our customers exposed us to their 811 ticket list. Now, we had had some idea about 811 tickets. We've worked with project management tools in commercial construction, and generally there's something there that track tickets from a list standpoint. But we were asked to build a report off of an Excel spreadsheet, which is a no-brainer. And the more we poked at it, the more we realized that this wasn't just a report off of a list. And I'll say frankly, it was Jeff's idea. Jeff turned the corner first and said, "There's a whole system out here. This is not just a report." By the way, I told him just to get back to work and build the report, but um, so we just kept picking at it, kept thinking about it. We reached out to the call center here in Northern California, got some more validation that there really wasn't anything out there that was purpose built for commercial contractors, and we were basically off to the races.
Interesting. You know, you said 811 Spotter was purpose built for excavators. I guess really, what does that mean in sense of like features and workflows, maybe user experience?
Yeah, you bet. So if I take a step back, there's really two things that come together at the same time. First is Jeff and I have spent the better part of our careers working with commercial contractors. These are the organizations that manage the scope, schedule, and budget, and also the material, equipment, labor part of construction. And so, from a damage prevention standpoint, they are the stakeholder that's starting the whole process. And so, we came to a feature set that catered to the stakeholder that we knew the best. It would have been not like almost irresponsible for us to start building feature sets for other stakeholders that we didn't have any experience with, and maybe not irresponsible, but just high risk. It's easier to build features for the organizations that you know and understand. And so, because we know and understand what moves the needle in commercial construction companies, we just built features that were specific for them. And so, what you get at the end, or at a MVP 1.0 um, uh, version, is something where literally every single feature was built to cater to the commercial contractor or the excavator stakeholder.
You know, it's interesting because as I look at how the excavator stakeholder market now is come over to the Earth family of products, it's a very interesting avenue that we're starting to go down. For years, Earth has focused very much strictly on the member utility and protecting the infrastructure there. And this is the first time in my career that I've seen engagement into a conversation with the excavating side. So, kind of give me your insight where you see the value and maybe the nimbleness of 811 Spotter, of where it sits today and how it can probably leverage the platform strengths that Earth provides.
Yeah, so Earth is the market share leader from a technology standpoint inside of damage prevention. And so, really early on, we recognized that we were going to need to align with as many stakeholders as possible. And so, it was a very natural progression for us to partner with initially, and then ultimately be acquired by Earth. From the damage prevention standpoint, there's 4 stakeholders, excavators, one call centers, utilities, and, the utility locators, and now Earth has a platform that it can sell across all stakeholders, and so, we bring I mean, from a good place, 811 Spot punches above our weight from a value standpoint, because the commercial construction market is quite a bit larger than damage prevention. And so I see us being Earth, and then specifically 811 Spotter using the platform that Earth has in order to sell into the traditional damage prevention market, and also Earth having the ability to bring more excavators into the market, which really makes the damage prevention system work better for all stakeholders.
That's an interesting note. I kind of want to follow up on that a bit. You said that the 811 Spotter platform makes the life for the other three parties a little more interesting in damage prevention. I'm curious of what you've seen now that the system's been in place for a couple of years now running. What advantages do you see that the excavation community will be bringing to the rest of the industry if they were to use technology like 811 Spotter?
Yeah, you bet. So that's a great question. And traditionally, there really have been, or I should say, the excavator stakeholder has been underserved from a technology standpoint inside of damage prevention. There's lots of tools that help with project management and scheduling and the things that commercial contractors need. But there hasn't been any powerful tool to help contractors or the excavator stakeholder work better inside of damage prevention. And that's essentially what we do. So we help contractors uh, understand the timing so that they can be better prepared once all of the rest of the stakeholders do what they're supposed to do. So there's an excavation readiness standpoint. We also put an economic incentive for excavators to manage their tickets. In other words, when they're done with tickets, they close them out, and so they are allowed to expire. So the net effect of that is really you bring up the sensitivity of excavators inside of damage prevention, and the number of tickets generally goes down because they're just managed better, and that helps the entire system work better.
Yeah, I mean, that's such an interesting note, and just kind of to walk through that process. It appears from the historical data that you've seen, that you've collected, that the participation of this group using tools to connect them to the process, it appears that since they participate better, that they're getting tickets closed faster or submitting less updates, which I think is the goal in damage prevention, is to make sure that tickets that are being submitted are valid and necessary, so we're not adding additional noise into the system. And it was real hard for contractors slash excavators to ever really get any kind of feedback onto their process unless they were individually looking at maybe a spreadsheet that they created or some sort of tool. There was really never anything, as you said, that was purposely built to show them, hey, this is your work challenge. And I think in our conversations early, most of the stuff that was out there that was anything technical was probably something that somebody kind of created in their desk, right? Somebody that was good with Excel maybe did something in a spreadsheet, but we didn't see many platform solutions here. What was an interesting note was, I thought on our journey, Irth had pursued looking at this platform and looking at building tools like this because fundamentally we thought there was an audience that really could see value of using tools like this. But what I found very interesting was, at least in our pursuit, we had a very interesting perspective at Irth of what these tools needed to be. And then coming to you and having conversations, I found out, at least in my experience, that you were communicating with the market differently, but they understood the value you were bringing because you identified the biggest challenges they were having. And it showed me the limitations that Irth had by only speaking to one side of the conversation. So it was interesting for me to see the value you were creating in the audience you were talking to. And thus, we thought at Irth, this platform speaks to that market better than anything we could come up with. And that was, to us, a very important business lesson to learn. We need to have the audience define what value is and then deliver on that. And I think you and Jeff had done a great job of doing that. And our hope was that Irth would allow you to engage in those conversations on a greater scale because of our relationships. So now we fast forward, and here we sit now, 3 or 4 months into the transaction. What's life look like for you right now? How's life going? Where do you see the product going? And are you, I think at this point, through the shock of being acquired and moving to the next phase of the evolution of 811spotter?
Yeah, so I think this is a true 1 + 1 = 3. And so going back a half step, we were avoiding what you would call traditional Irth customers and focusing exclusively on commercial contractors. And so once we began to understand the platform that Irth um, could provide for us, and essentially provide a megaphone to both markets. And so both our companies, I mean, obviously Irth is a much, much bigger company than 811spotter, but both our companies become multi-market, multi-product um, companies. It's quite a challenge. And so for me, am I over the shock? Mostly over the shock. I mean, Irth has provided a pretty nice uh, landing pad for both Jeff and I and the rest of our company to sort of land, get our feet underneath us, and then start to execute. These things can never happen fast enough, but I think we're really beginning to get our stride, and you're going to see that in the coming months with some marketing events, um, content like this going out to really both markets, and that's going to help solidify and sort of educate and then solidify that from the damage prevention side, excavators need more powerful tools, and that Irth's investment in 811spotter is really proof of that. And then from the 811spotter side and its traditional customer base, it's really a much louder megaphone um, in terms of getting the message out that there's something that's purpose built for contractors to help with this very, very specific process.
Well, let's dream a little. Let's figure out, now that you're at Irth, there's obviously accessibility to more resources, other types of connections, as you mentioned. I'm kind of curious, as somebody that hasn't spent that much time in the excavating side of this very complex equation that we're kind of working through, what are excavators telling you that they need inside of this platform? Maybe not today, but where do you see this going in the next, 12 to 18 months, I guess, in the short term? But I'm also curious of where you see this in like 5 years. So fill us in on your vision.
Yeah, so I think there's really two, if we take it, short term, long term. In the short term, what we hear is, I call it the "I want my MTV." So what we hear is, we need you in states that we are not currently. We get that call almost daily. I need you in North Carolina. I need you in Ohio. I need you in Utah. Like, come to the state. So we're being pulled in by both our multi-state contractors that use us already. So there's pressure to get into states that we are not. And by the way, our top states are also Earth customers, and so there's a really a great path for expansion. And so one of the things that we're working on immediately, and that we will all see in the next 6 months, is a rapid expansion, and we'll just continue our lead from a market share standpoint to get to absolutely as many states as possible.
Gotcha.
Um, uh, in the medium and longer term, the great thing about 811 Spotter is we are meeting our customers where they are today and solving the need. And so the pressure from a development standpoint is really around scale and expansion. Over time, there are just so many processes around excavation that are also underserved. Other permit management, um, uh, uh, permit management, other safety aspects when you're around excavation, where you deploy your field teams. So there's some work management and also some productivity management that we'll begin to work on as we go.
Interesting. I kind of want to shift the topic just a little and talk about something that's kind of near to me. And I really think the acquisition of 811 Spotter really kind of defined this as a very important moment. And I'm really talking about the acquisition of data. For me, I see the value that we've watched as we've leveraged the data within the damage prevention effort to really identify things like risk and efficiencies that we can use by taking a larger look at a lot of data and seeing what trends come out of that. What impressed me with the 811 spotter, I think, evolution was the new data that was being created by the excavating contracting community. What some of that data never makes it to the damage prevention notification ticket. So there's very valuable data there, both in responses and activity, but also extra data that they may be using during this process. So seeing that data captured now and then being able to use that data along with the rest of the damage prevention has, to me, really expanded the conversation of what we can do from a predictability side. I'm curious of where you see the advancements that we might be able to make now, taking the 811 spotter data and combining that with the rest of this gigantic data set that Earth sits on, and where you see that might create additional value for the excavating community.
Yeah, absolutely. So the data that 811 Spotter captures basically supports the efficiency of contractors in doing their work. So there's some predictability, or we have some predictions of utility responsiveness to the 811 system, so that contractors can get ahead of a utility that may be overburdened, or not responding as fast as they should. And then following that, we also have utility contacts that may or may not exist in the one call. So there's sort of a there's a there's a efficiency data collection and use back to contractors. And then once contractors get their tickets, they begin to enhance the information through notes, photos, and actually what they're doing with the tickets. So the combination of those two really create a data source that doesn't exist anywhere else. And so, frankly, it's much smaller than the data set that Earth has today, but it's enhanced and augmented in a way that is pretty meaningful. And so combining the two, I think, will get us even more efficiency from the um, excavator stakeholder standpoint. So even more efficiencies, more ability to contact and communicate with the people that they excavators need to, and then that just gets um, all that information goes right into the Earth data platform for better risk analysis and better predictability for the other stakeholders.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting here is I hope that this move from a technology standpoint increases the data. But the reality of it is, I hope that this combination of the companies of Earth and 811 Spotter shows that the audience that has been ignored for a very long time in damage prevention is rightfully getting a voice now into the conversation, because now we understand how critical it is to have their participation for the entire effect of the industry, right? How do we reduce damages if you're ignoring the people who are putting shovels into the ground? I think was always the challenge that's here. So I really welcome the opportunity to hear that conversation more and learn from that audience, but also then how those audiences that we can navigate, those audiences can work together now, I think, in a way to get efficiencies for both groups. I always joke in the fact that at 25 years, 30 years ago, we were really trying to figure out how you could dig safely and have somebody start digging in 2 days. And here we sit today, 25 years later, the exact same conversation is occurring. So the question becomes not only how do we get them to dig safer, but one day we're going to ask, how do we get them to dig sooner and safer, right? And I think the excavation community would see great value if we change the conversation just slightly to engage into a goal that would suit them and their ROI conversation, as well as it serves the member utilities who are trying to, of course, protect their very valuable infrastructure. So as we kind of wind this all down, Mark, I'm curious, any last thoughts that you have on what the future for you and your team looks like, and maybe anything else that we can expect in the near term coming out of 811 Spotter?
Well, I mean, we are just thank you, Jason. So we're just focused on scaling the business up and getting to as many states as possible, and that's really the singular focus. Um, but I think the interesting one of the interesting aspects of Earth now is you've got stakeholders that have a relationship outside of Earth. In other words, excavation contractors are working for utilities. And so there is a customer service standpoint there that needs to be managed by both 811 Spotter and the traditional 811 Spotter customer. Then on the Earth side, there's vendor relationships because the vendors of utilities are excavation contractors. And so there's a coming together of the stakeholders in a way that really I don't think existed before, and a way for those stakeholders to communicate back through Earth or be in the same room and talk about how the systems can work better together the um, uh, for the goals of damage prevention. Because when damage happens, obviously there's network issues on the utility side. There's budget and schedule issues, certainly safety issues on the excavator stakeholder side. So um, uh, increasing, or I should say, decreasing the amount of damage, um, obviously is the goal for everyone. And the only way that we can move the needle inside of organizations, this is as humans, is to increase technology and communication. The combination of those two really will move the needle for the entire industry.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's such a good note to end this on. As we continue to move forward with technology advancements, as we try to move damage prevention to a safer conversation, it's great to hear that we're engaging broader, wider audiences that will have a direct impact at the end result of all this effort. So, one, let me applaud you on creating a great business. Two, super happy you've joined the Earth team. And three, I think I can't wait to see what we look like from a data and predictability standpoint, and even as something as short a time from a year from now. So, Mark, congratulations to you and your team. Thank you for joining me on the podcast today. Any last tips, words of advice, anything great that you want to pass on to our audience?
Nothing that I can think of right now other than just absolutely thrilled to be here, and let us know how we can support you is generally how we leave conversations like this. So
Great.
thanks so much, Jason.
Absolutely. Take care, Mark.